The Footman, such an iconic unit in Warcraft lore. Perhaps no unit in the series better exemplifies the struggles of the common man. These units exist to keep you alive in the early game, then get brutally replaced by the knight in not one, not two, but all three versions of Warcraft. While the Footman might be worse in Warcraft 3 than Warcraft 2, the insult to these brave soldiers may actually be even worse in this game. Knights outshine the Footman in damage, health, armor, speed, and even spellcasting, rendering the Footman completely obsolete once you get to stables. Yet, the Footmen have one thing the Knights will never have: heart. Footmen care for one another, and understand one another's plight. While the upper-class Knights ran and hid from the unending tide of grunts, only the Footman stood up for what was right and good in the world. Which is why today, we shall ask the question, can you beat Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness with only Footmen? The first 4 levels are essentially identical in both campaigns, so they go about the same way as they did in my Only Grunts run. Tol Barad and Dun Algraz are also extremely easy levels, so our first real challenge of the run starts in Grimbatol. The mission starts me with a small army and no base, which is not a good sign for this challenge. Unfortunately, to access a gold mine, I need to use my army to clear my way through a heavily fortified orc base, which my starting 5 footmen are not capable of doing. I reluctantly use my starting army to clear out the orc base, then kill off all my non-footmen units once I construct a town hall. The second half of this level is more interesting. I need to destroy 5 enemy oil refineries, which are across the large body of water guarded by a ton of towers and ships. With battleships, the level is extremely simple, but with footmen, things are a lot more challenging. The enemy doesn't attack, produce, or even mine in this level, which means I can take it slow. The only thing that matters here is efficiency. After absorbing all the gold I can access on the map, I get ready to make my move. I send 30 footmen across the channel to strike at the heart of Teal's base, and the landing is bloody. 22 footmen die almost instantly, but I manage to destroy a couple of cannon towers, then get 8 lucky survivors away from the shore. With this small group, I start clearing buildings very carefully, easily destroying 2 more cannon towers near the top of their base. With a clear landing zone, I'm able to ferry more footmen and peasants towards the orc base. Then, I build cannon towers to destroy Teal's ships and refineries, another town hall near Teal's gold mine, and a couple of barracks for reinforcements. With so much extra gold at my disposal, I easily crush the rest of Teal's base, destroy all of their refineries, and complete the mission. With that, Tyr's Hand is another simple mission. Afterwards, we get the battle at Dragomir, which is a non-base mission where we need to escort a special paladin through a narrow channel controlled by orcs. With only footmen, I have no shot at defeating the orcs, but with 4 transports and 2 goblin zeppelins, I have just barely enough health to sneak past the enemy ships. It takes me several tries and 3 of my 4 transports sink, but I'm barely able to get the paladin to where he needs to go. After this battle, we learn that there is a faction of humans who doesn't believe in the almighty power of the Footman. These heretical humans want to use things like mages and battleships to turn the tides of war, and they must be stopped before their silly ideas infect us all. To do that, I need to transport several prisoners to my base, so we can interrogate them and figure out where their base of operations is. I only need to rescue 4 prisoners, so playing this level optimally would involve me sacrificing 4 of my 8 prisoners and all of my prison guards at the very start of the level to free up extra supply. However, the prisoners are peasants and the guards are footmen, so I decide to spare them. Instead, I just build up normally, getting a solid army of footmen for defense while constructing my base. The level starts by giving me a private island that's very easy to defend, with blue to the west and red to the south. Blue has a large fleet and is constantly sending small attacks towards my base, but I don't need to destroy them to beat the level. To win, all I need to do is destroy Red's small base, then build another shipyard south of Red's base, train up some transports, and use those to rescue the prisoners. Completing the level is easy, but I want to kill off Blue, and that's a bit more challenging. The first problem is Blue's juggernauts that like hanging out just offshore of their base. If I get into a prolonged fight with footmen near the behemoths, they will tear me apart in an instant. However, Blue gives me a solution to this problem. When Blue attacks me with their ships, I am unprepared to deal with the juggernaut and lose my shipyard and foundry. My cannon tower that I built in a panic isn't in range to destroy this juggernaut, which turns out to be a bit of a blessing in disguise. Instead of building another cannon tower to kill it, I just rebuild my shipyard in a new location, allowing Blue's juggernaut to live. Since Blue won't rebuild their ships until they lose it, One of Blue's best defenders is now stuck in a completely useless position, making my attacks significantly easier. Seeing an opportunity to go further with this plan, I used my gnomish flying machine to lure 3 of Blue's destroyers away from their base. With that, Blue's fleet is completely neutralized without firing a single shot. With that, I rebuild my transports and go. While Blue has a couple of ships by the time I get to their base, I'm able to quickly unload my footmen and charge away from the coast, easily destroying the base. After that, I transport some peasants to Blue's base, steal their gold mine, and build some towers to finish off the rest of Blue's ships. After that, the level is very easy. I kill off Red, then train a bunch of transports in the southern river. This river is protected by a ton of cannon towers, but my transports get through it unharmed. Then, I take a break to repair my transports, load up the prisoners, and escort them back to my main base. 1 prisoner dies, but the rest make it, and I'm ready to assault these heretical humans. The next level unfortunately starts us off with a large army and no peasants. I need to rescue some captured peasants up north, and it's impossible to do this with just my starting footmen. So I use my starting army to rescue my peasants, then kill off everything that's not a footman. The heretical human defenses crumble before my horde of footmen, and I move on. So far, this campaign has been extremely easy. The last 3 levels are where the difficulty starts to ramp up a bit. The battle at Crestfall is an island map where the enemy attacks very aggressively with naval units, and my nearest oil platform is on the other side of the map. This platform is undefended at the start of the mission, so I immediately start training up oil tankers to steal as much of this precious oil as I can before they seal it off. It doesn't take long before Red finds and destroys my oil platform, but by this point I have enough oil for 4 transports. To save on oil, I intentionally do not construct a castle. After a long period of build-up, I'm finally ready to take an expansion. I load my footmen onto transports and take over the nearest island easily, but there's a problem. The gold mine is very close to the edge of the island, and a juggernaut starts bombarding my mining peasants. Because there's a ton of mud on this island, there are not many places to build towers here, which means my gold income is in jeopardy. After chopping some lumber to free up space, I construct a cannon tower, but can't lure the juggernaut towards it. Then, I construct another scout tower in a place that can hit the juggernaut, but I'm 500 gold short of upgrading it to a cannon tower. I take a deep breath and send my peasants to mine again, hoping they can make a few trips before the juggernaut targets them. And somehow, this works. The juggernaut can't seem to track the small number of peasants mining, and doesn't fire a single shot before I get up to 1,000 gold. With that, I upgrade my scout tower into a cannon tower, and oh my god, it's 8 range away. Ugh. And a second juggernaut showed up. I hate everything. I have one more shot at this. By carefully chopping a little more lumber, I free up the space to build one more cannon tower. This one is exactly 7 range away from the juggernaut, and it manages to sink their enemy ships. I've secured my expansion, and with that, the level gets a lot easier. This expansion is close to an oil field, so I secure the field with towers and acquire a stable source of oil. Then, I build up a bit more and take the next island. Eventually, I'm able to clear a landing zone in the enemy base, build up some barracks, and destroy Red's main. After that, it's just cleanup as I build a bunch of towers to chase down the remaining enemy ships, and a destroyer to get rid of their last oil platform. By the end, I have 800 gold left over and have beaten the level. Not even close. As a punishment for forcing me to save him in a previous level, we begin the next level by offering the orcs Turalian as a sacrifice. This plan works beautifully, as the orcs kill him without hesitation. Nice orcs, you did my job for me. While most of the original Warcraft 2 campaign has very passive AI, the enemy in this level attacks with some pretty powerful forces early on that can easily catch an unprepared player off guard. However, one advantage of going footmen only is that I will never neglect my land army in this challenge. By building a ton of footmen and towers, I'm able to easily deflect these first attack waves and get my economy going. At this point, I have a choice to make. There is an undefended gold mine to the right of my base that I could easily expand to, but I opt not to go there in favor of attacking a heavily fortified base to my north. There are 2 reasons why. First of all, I might have forgotten that the free base existed. Maybe. Secondly, and more importantly, I really wanted to snipe Orange's Dragon Roost. Before attempting this challenge, I thought the Dragon Roost was for show, and that Orange never trained dragons from it. This is because the roost is very close to your base and can easily be sniped off by a single battleship, so I always just killed it really early. However, on my first off-camera attempt at this level, I learned otherwise, as Orange swarmed me with a ton of dragons that became incredibly challenging to deal with. I need to get rid of this roost before that happens, so I send in my attack. There is a dragon defending this island at all times, which means my plan is to send in my footmen, destroy enough guard towers and soldiers to clear a landing zone, then build a guard tower in the middle of the orc base while the enemy is distracted. On my first attempt, my footmen managed to destroy the dragon roost, but then get slaughtered before I can get up my guard tower. I send in 6 more peasants to try and rush another guard tower, but an enemy juggernaut finds me and snipes all my peasants before I can do anything. At this point, I'm running out of money, so I reset. My next attempt, I'm far more successful with better micro. My footmen die in the end, but not before I've set up a guard tower in their base and kill off their dragon. Without that dragon guarding the base, my reinforcements are able to clean up the rest of the defenders, and I've taken an expansion. The gamble paid off, as I now no longer have to worry about enemy dragons, and I've gotten a whole lot of extra gold that Orange would have otherwise mined. After that, things get significantly easier. Orange stops attacking as their AI is probably telling them to train dragons from a non-existent dragon roost, but Red stops attacking too, and I have no idea why. After a long period of buildup, I send 5 transports full of footmen towards Orange's base. The southern tip of the base is undefended, so I get an easy landing zone, which lets me smash Orange's defenses with ease. With so much gold at this point, I'm practically invincible, so I spend a long time building up. As I scout around the map, I learn why Red's been so passive this game. Oh wow. Normally in these challenges, I actively do things that cause the AI to break. This is something else. Red's transport is trying so hard to get back to base in order to send another attack wave, but it can't find the path. I didn't do anything to cause this, at least not intentionally. This is just yet another example of the exemplary Warcraft 2 pathfinding, and I just have to pause the game for a bit as I'm too busy laughing to actually play. Red's base is pretty well fortified, but it also has a lot of open space, and I have 90,000 gold by the time I start attacking. So, while I lose a lot of footmen in the attack, I just have way too much to ever lose at this point. By the time I've cleared out Red's base and destroyed all of Orange's remaining ships, I still have over 33,000 gold left over. Only one more level remains, and it is by far the toughest level in either campaign. The Great Portal is a legitimately challenging level even when played normally, and it is 100% impossible if I only use my starting footmen and peasants. The level starts me off with a small strike force, which I have to use to clear out a fortified orc base at the start of the level. My starting battleship and destroyers take out their cannon towers to clear a landing zone, then I need to act quickly to get everyone to my first gold mine. Then, with some careful micro, I send in my melee units to kill off the ogre mages to the north. This goes well until I kill off every orange building in the area, which turns out to be a massive mistake. When the last orange building is destroyed, 3 orange dragons turn up at my base. While I manage to kill them, I don't manage to kill the other dragons attacking me, and I am completely overwhelmed. This level has 2 main threats. First, there are dragons everywhere. 2 enemy dragon roosts are just constantly training dragons and sending them all across the map, which means dragons can just pop up anywhere at any time. The enemy does not wait until you have a great hull to start sending these dragons either, which means I do not have long to build up my defenses before I'm overwhelmed. Guard towers easily defeat dragons 1v1, but to defend, I need a ton of towers everywhere immediately. The second threat this level has to offer is even more dangerous than the dragons. Sometimes. In fact, this level has a bit of a pseudo-random easy or hard mode to it, and that's because of, you guessed it, awful pathfinding! While Black never trains any units, they just have 3 Death Knights that love spamming Death and DK on all your towers, which makes it a million times harder to defend against the dragon spam. However, this only happens if Black's Death Knights can find your base. I don't actually know how to manipulate these Death Knights, but I do know that about half the time I play this level, Black just kind of fails to find me and I don't need to worry about the biggest threat this level has to offer. Today, I'm lucky and I don't encounter the Death Knights. That means I'm able to keep my towers alive, fend off the dragons, and eventually expand to a second gold mine. This second mine is extremely close to my first one, which is good because the map is dark and full of dragons. To expand anywhere, I need to build an absurd number of guard towers to protect my peasants, and these defenses are only somewhat effective at keeping my workers alive. My lumber supply near my base is running out at this point, so I need to expand further to get a new lumber mill. This finally aggroes Black's Death Knights, who start casting spells to destroy my towers and kill my peasants. Fortunately, at this point, I have a tool that can keep the Death Knights at bay, the Gnomish Flying Machine. This scouting unit doesn't deal damage, but enemy Death Knights love to cast Whirlwind on it for some bizarre reason. The flying machine is fast and immediately flies away from the vortex, so the spell causes minimal damage as my important peasants chop peacefully. Well, mostly peacefully. Okay, chop while getting bombarded by Dragonfire, but I mean, it's better than chopping in a Death and Decay, right? Once I've absorbed all the resources I can in my section of the map, my next move is to kill Black. I take my army of footmen and charge them into Black's base, hoping for the best, and my army performs shockingly well. Black's units and towers fall, their Death Knights crumble before my swords, and I'm able to take the rest of the resources on my main island. Despite my victory, I have a problem. I only have 200 oil, and there are only 2 open oil fields on the map. I'm a bit worried at this point. If I can't mine any oil, then I'm going to need to restart and never build a keep or a castle, just so I can save enough oil for a transport. The first platform to the northwest is a non-starter. An enemy juggernaut blasts apart my platform before I can even build it. The northeast platform is more promising. My oil tankers have to brave enemy juggernaut cannons and dragonfire on their epic quest to harvest the sweet black substance. Dragons do eventually find and destroy my oil platform, but not before I've mined 1400 oil, enough for a foundry and 2 transports. I load up 4 peasants into my transports and send them to a small island near the oil field. Dragons kill my peasants, but not before I've gotten a guard tower up on the island. I load up 6 more peasants on my transport, this time managing to set up a forward outpost on the island, securing enough oil to train transports at will. Now that I've secured all the resources, it's time to advance through white space. I advance slowly through their base with footmen and guard towers, destroying everything in my path. It takes several waves, but eventually only the defenders of the Dark Portal remain. I advance in waves here. My first transport unloads 6 footmen who kill off a few annoying Death Knights guarding the portal. My next wave, I send in a mix of footmen and peasants, as my footmen distract the demons on the island long enough for me to get up some guard towers, which secure the portal. With nothing stopping me, my footmen pull their swords onto the Dark Portal, destroying this cursed object. Or, at least, that's what everyone thought would happen. It turns out magic is needed to destroy the Dark Portal, and the practice of magic was outlawed ages ago. To pacify the orcs for good, the footmen charge through the Great Portal, but a massive horde of grunts awaits them on the other side. Will the grunts be able to turn the tides of this war and put an end to the invasion? Find out next time as we go beyond the Dark Portal.